Yo, what's going on, guys? If this is not your first time, what's up? If this is your first time, welcome. This is No Bullshit Podcast, man. It's Kai.
Yo, it's Coughlin.
And listen, man, we're gonna get right into it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Giving you guys another pod about I believe week 3 and week 4.
Yep.
Recapping the last 2 weeks around the NFL. So I feel like we should start off with our both our squads respectively. You know what I mean? The
Mm-hmm.
49ers and the Chargers, and then we'll, progress to get into the rest of the league. So Clock can take it away, man. Let's talk about your squad, man.
Shoot, it's been a crazy turnaround these past couple weeks. Week three we played against the Rams. If you guys didn't know that, uh, we ended up losing that game. I don't know how. We lost the game 27-24, and what this loss took away from was a great game by two amazing players. You know, we got Brock Purdy, who played very, very well without barely any weapons. Right, coming to that game, people were like, "Okay, this is your time to shine. It's your time to show the world that can you perform without your weapons." Right, and regardless because that we lost, he played really well. He played very,
Mm-hmm.
very well. 22 of 30, 292, three touchdowns. Jordan Mason, 88 total yards, and the player of the game, man, Jawan fucking Jennings, or should I say, fucking Randy Moss. Like
Mm-hmm.
he had a crazy stat line. He had 11 receptions, 175 yards, and three tutties, man, putting him in a status where only two other players has put up that kind of stat line. And I mentioned one of them already, Jawan, Randy Moss, and the other guy, GOAT, Jerry Rice, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a pretty good company to be in, but that game right there, defense couldn't get a stop, man. Run D getting bolt like it was really bad, punching us up in the middle. Kyron Williams is running all over our defense, right? Fred Warner, he's been the only consistent guy on defense. That's it, right? And so, heading into week four, that just happened against the Patriots, we needed to see a big bounce back game because I already said the Rams was already a must win game because of the injuries they already had and it's a divisional
Mm-hmm.
game. But going against the Pats, look, you're 1-2. You do not want to head down 1-3, right? When you
Yep.
see like other teams like the Seahawks in your division rolling, right? So we head into the Patriots game. Um, Granted, it is the Patriots, and I did expect us to win because they're fucking ass. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but no, going against the Patriots, it was a big bounce back game. And Brock Purdy, my God, he's showing us what I've been wanting to see from him, right? It's essentially a
Mm-hmm.
contract year for him, right? And I needed to see
Yeah.
him improve, and not only just the player, but also the person, right? He needs to become more of a leader in order for him to get this kind of money, and for us to have, as an organization, to put some, trust into him for the now and the future, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so he's been playing really well, and Kai, he loves his stats. He loves his
Yep.
stats, right? And he probably already seen this already, right? But you know, if you guys, highest passer rating over the first 25 career starts since the merger, Brock Purdy with 112.6. That tops Patrick Mahomes, Kurt Warner, right? And then speaking just this season alone, he's second in the league in passing yards with 1,000 yards and 130 1,000 133 yards. He has the most deep completions with nine. He has the most deep passing yards, so 292 yards, which is insane. And he has zero
Mm-hmm.
drop deep passes. And he has 60 first downs himself. And that includes passing and running as well. Right? And right
Mm-hmm.
now, projected, if you want to do like, PFF stats or like, projections or whatever, he's project on his trajectory. He's projected to pass for like what 4,800 yards, which is insane. Obviously, I don't think he's going to pass for 4,800 yards, but
Mm-hmm.
he's been. It just goes to show how great he's been playing so far. right? And honestly, this is the thing that we need to see happening for the rest of the season because our defense has been a little shaky. Our offense is still trying to get in rhythm, right? Christian McCaffrey, he has Achilles tendonitis in both legs, so
Mhm.
who knows when he's going to come back, right? I thought he'd come back maybe in the second half of the season, but who knows? He might be out for the whole year, right? And so yeah, it's just gonna be just gonna be interesting how we head into like week 5. Or we're not even only week 5. It's a couple other games. It's like key divisional opponents with the Cardinals, Seahawks, and right after them, you got the Chiefs and the Cowboys right before the bye. Right, so that's a tough
Mhm.
4 game stretch right there, right before the bye. So it's gonna be interesting how we attack these.
Yeah. I mean, as an outsider looking into your team, the biggest thing I've noticed, besides obviously there has been not as much production from your stars as you would like.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing, and I feel as though the most important thing, is that defense has not been what it has been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, and a lot of my comrades can attest to this, the biggest reason is this guy. He is the biggest reason why. No matter where he goes, your defense will be dog shit. He's not a good coach. He doesn't deserve to be coaching in this league, and that's it. Um, but with that being said, kind of flipping it over to the Chargers, we as last pod we were 2-0. This pod we're
Yeah.
2-2, right? And
Yeah.
as a Chargers fan, this is kind of something that we have grown accustomed to. You know what I mean? Kind of playing 500 ball. Um, and for me, and kind of this all goes back to my expectations going into the season. And I thought our highest ceiling, we're a wild card team, but realistically, I just don't think we have the talent quite yet to really to be one of the top teams in this league right now. Um, and it shows, but I'm encouraged by some of the things that I'm seeing, and the biggest things that I'm most encouraged by, kind of funny, is our defense. Our defense has been playing out of their mind all four weeks. Um, a lot of I still believe that we're giving up the least amount of points in the league. Um, and for me, just seeing the defense fly around, see guys tackle, see guys give effort, right? To see guys give our offense more and more chances, more chances than this offense has seen in years prior. You know what I mean, it was kind of like our offense had to be perfect in order for us to win games. But now we're seeing that we have the luxury of, okay, we got a 3-and-out. Okay, we'll kick, we'll punt, get a ball to our defense. They'll force a 3-and-out. And even against a high power, you know, offense like the Chiefs, where we only held them to 17 points and statistically one of Patrick Mahomes' worst games of his career, right? So that is encouraging. Um, that is encouraging. And to be honest, I mean, we lost to the Steelers, who are a great organization. We lost to the Chiefs, who are, a well-run organization, right? So those are not two games that objectively looking at, I'm mad that we lost. Like, of course, as a fan, I'm mad that we lost. But if I just look at where their teams are, where our teams are, I'm not mad at that. Compared to our wins against the Panthers, wins against the Raiders, those are games we should win and we did, right? So, right now we're on a bye. So, actually, I'm about to check who we play after our bye. Pretty sure is it a divisional game? Yep. We play the
Raiders.
Broncos.
Oh, Broncos.
We play the Broncos after our bye. I believe we're in Denver for this game, and again, this is
Mm-hmm.
another test. This is another team that we should beat, right? And in years past, even teams that we should beat, we haven't. So just seeing that, seeing the defense improve, seeing this team beat teams that are supposed to win and compete against teams that are better than them, because at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, and to kind of get a little bit more specific on both games, um, funny enough, both games we scored 10 points in the first half, 0 points in the second. Um, and we had a lot of opportunities, like at least specifically in the Chiefs game this past Sunday. Um, we were in scoring position, right? We ran a
Mm-hmm.
great play to Josh Palmer, where if he doesn't magically fall, he walks in the end zone standing up. You know what I mean? And it's 17-10, and who knows how that game ends, right? So it's the little things. It's the little things in my opinion, like just the sloppiness mainly on offense, right? I haven't seen a lot of sloppiness on defense, but it's been the offense where, drives get stalled out because of holding penalties, offside penalties, legal formation penalties, where it just puts you behind the chains where routinely you're at first and 20, first and 15. It's hard, especially with a team that's lacking so much offensive firepower to overcome that. And like you said, I love my stats, and one of the biggest stats that, in my opinion, there's some truth to, but in a certain sense, it is a little misleading. Is Justin Herbert in his career, his career games of throwing 180 passing yards or less from 2020 to 2023, the last, however many seasons of his career, 62 starts. He only has 3 games where he's passed for 180 yards or less. Just this season alone, in the first 4 starts, he has 4. Some people may look at that stat and be like, "Oh my God, what has happened to Justin Herbert?" And in my opinion, it's 2 things. One, I feel as though our offense is not balanced enough. I feel like we lean too much into the run. Where,
Right.
listen, the reality is you have a Maserati. Why are you driving it at 20 miles an hour?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that every single time you get in the car, you push it to 100, but we have to stretch the field out. We have to.
Yes.
Like, one of the things that was encouraging that I saw last week was, even if we didn't connect, we were throwing the ball deep. I
Mhm.
I love that because it makes the defense play honestly. Where if I haven't seen a deep pass the whole game, as a corner, I'm gonna be more aggressive because I know, okay, you guys must not be confident in the fact that you can throw the ball past 5 yards, past 10 yards. So I'm coming downhill on every single route, and you can clearly see how that has impacted our offense. Um, but the reality is, Lamacon, he's fast. Quentin Johnston, he can get vertical.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to push the ball downfield. Like, again, even if we don't connect, just the fact that we're showing that threat is huge. Um, and to be quite honest, like, injury has been the main bug that has been bothering his team for X amount of years, man. And that's really what I attest to, especially specifically that Steelers loss, was we would just start dropping like flies in the second half. We just kept losing guys and losing guys and losing guys. Like, it comes in waves. It isn't, okay, one week you lose this guy, next week. It's like as soon as one person gets hurt, like, it's just everything's downhill. Joey Bosa, every offseason in the media, he talks about how this is the healthiest he's ever felt. This is the best he's ever felt going into the season. And week 1, he's walking to the sideline with the trainers every year. And I guess all I can do is chalk it up to just being unlucky, right? But it's getting tired, and I'm getting tired of seeing it year in and year out, where it's like routinely we're paying these guys and they're not on the field, right? Where it's like, okay, well, if we're already going through the season without Joey Bosa due to injury, imagine what we could have did with the money that we're paying him on his contract. Like, what type of
Yes.
moves would we have made with that allocated money when we're not even playing with you on the field anyway, right? So especially a guy that is, I believe, on a 1 year deal, him and Khalil, it's very interesting to see if he continues to miss games. This could be the last season of 97 on the Chargers, which is something I never want to happen. I never really saw happening, but it's just due to injuries. Same thing with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, where it's like, if we're paying you guys top dollar, you guys have to be on the field. You guys have to be producing, and they just haven't. So, going into this bye, you know, hopefully some of these guys can, get healthy, get right, and we could pick up a dub against the Broncos and try to develop a little bit of momentum in terms of this, in terms of
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, it's it's gonna be a long season, right? Like it's only week 4, right? We got so many weeks, so many games to play left. So who knows? Anything can happen after your bye, right? And honestly,
you know,
you know, is a bye earlier in the season great? I mean, in retrospect, probably not. But as a team for the Chargers, right? you're in a year where you're just trying to rebuild slash retool, right?
Mhm.
Your team, I feel like for what you said, uh, the record seems pretty much right for the first quarter of the season, right? 2-2, you see that's what you kind of expect at least, right?
Mhm.
I mean, of course, you kind of hope to win at least one of those other games that you guys lost. Yeah, but like you said,
You
it's
cut
a
out for
team
a
that's
second, buddy.
still, yeah, it's still learning, right? So it's in my opinion, I think that's still kind of promising in some things, right? Obviously, Jim Harbaugh, he loves to run the ball. I know this personally. When he was on the Niners, he loves to run the ball, right? But I think nowadays in all the modern offenses, right? The best offense is able to balance both run and pass, right?
Yes.
And when you have a quarterback like Justin Herbert, who I still firmly believe, I don't care what anybody says, is a top 5 QB in the league, man. Like, he is heavily underrated because he's on a losing team for right now, right? And you got to use. Look, you pay the dude that much money, you got to use him to the best and most capability. You don't pay
Yes.
him to just pass the ball 15 times, 20 times a game, or 100 yards a game, right? You don't do that,
Mhm.
right? And like you said, you got some decent receivers, right? And Lad McConkey, he's looking promising. Quentin Johnson, your best receiver, he's having a revival.
Yeah.
So,
Listen, I have, he has been surprising me these last couple weeks. You know what I mean? And
mhm,
um, I won't quite take back everything I said about him. Right? We're only 4 games into the season. He has plenty of times. He has plenty of time to disappoint me. Um, but from what I've seen, it seems as though right the plays in which he should make, he is right. He isn't quite doing the extra right that we've seen from star receivers where a play you should make like you make. But the plays that he should make, he is right. There's not a lot of drop passes, not a lot of you know and a lot of that I do attest to Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh of
yes.
utilizing him better than Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley did last season, where they were using him last season like he was Mike Williams Jr. And that's not his game. It's a
Mm-mm.
lot of drag routes, a lot of wide receiver screens, a lot of getting the ball in his hands and letting him make people miss. Um,
Yes.
I would love to see more and more of that as using Quentin Johnston and Lad McConkey for that matter as an extension of the run game in terms of getting the ball out to them fast, in open field and letting them move. Because even Lad McConkey, he had a big play, I believe, on a crossing route against the Chiefs where he turned on the Jets. And you
Mhm.
saw the athleticism from him. So I would love to see us utilize them more in the passing game and not and situationally though, because in my opinion, the biggest reason why we're 2-2 right now is because our quarterback is not healthy, and the biggest reason
Yeah.
why he's not healthy is because again, situational football against that Steelers defense who has been flying around all game. I don't understand why we threw the ball 5 straight times. I
You
don't
don't do
understand
that.
it. And on the fourth time, well, I believe on the third play and then on the fifth play, our quarterback gets hit and walks to the sideline limping. You have to run the ball. Like we're running the ball, but the situations don't make sense. Like we're going to end the game with X amount of rushers, but in the situation where we should run the ball, we pass. In the situation where we should pass, we run. And it's like, okay, well, you have to keep them honest. I know they were stacking the box and all those things, but at the very least, if you're going to throw the ball, you got to have somebody that's hot. You got to get the ball out of his hands fast, not oh shit, they're sending let's just run everybody downfield. That's never going to work, right? So I like I said, we're on a bye, so I'm gonna try to Musa, right, and just hopefully against Denver we can get some momentum.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue to we talked about our teams, Niners and Chargers, but let's look around the whole league, the past couple of weeks, and we can just start from week 3. Um, First thing I gotta highlight is that big time matchup. So I think it was Sunday Night Football, or it was a Monday Night Football. It was one of the primetime games, but Commanders and Bengals, man, what a game!
Mm-hmm.
What a freaking game! Yeah, Commanders won 38
Bengals,
to
man.
Bengals 33, and Your boy, I'm both of you guys. LSU boys, man.
Yeah,
Jaden Daniels and
LSU versus
Burrow.
LSU.
Yeah, and Jaden Daniels, honestly, he's kind of shocked me just a little bit because like I knew he was going to be good, but I didn't think he'll be this good this fast. Because
Mm-hmm.
right now he's completing the ball at a crazy rate. I think like 88%, almost 90%. You just don't hear that. Like you hear 70
Mm-hmm.
something percent, but you don't hear like 80, close to 90%, right? And he's also not turning the ball over, not barely, right? He had a great
Mm-hmm.
game, 3 total touchdowns, two in the air, one on the ground, right? And then Burrow, he had a great game as well. Also 3 touchdowns. And Chase, the past couple weeks, he's been getting more involved, right? He had a great game, six catches, 113 yards, 2 tutties, right? And honestly, I think the reason why the Commanders are putting up more points and being more explosive is they're getting the ball to Terry McLaurin. It's their best
Mm-hmm.
receiver, right? The first 2 weeks of the season, they were winning games, but they were kicking too many field goals. Where
Yeah.
they were going on drives where they get in the red zone, but it's just field goal, field goal, field goal, right? But week 3, and we'll touch on week 4 about them, but the Commanders, they're actually utilizing and making sure that they're getting the ball to their playmakers' hands, and that's Terry McLaurin, right? It's an underrated player, and
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I think one of the most underrated pickups they had all in the offseason was Zach Ertz. He's providing this
Mm-hmm.
leadership to to the tight end room, where the Commanders, I think every time they've been, I guess, quote unquote competitive, they've always had a solid tight end, right? When
Yes.
it comes to either Logan Thomas, of the world, back then when they had Vernon Davis, right? And then now you have
Listen,
Zach Ertz.
listen. We on the topic, right? And this is a name that a lot of you probably have not heard in a very long time. But shout out to Jordan Reed, man. Jordan
Yeah.
Reed was a baller, man. He was a
Mm-hmm.
baller. Like he was in contention for the best tight end in the league when he was playing in Washington. I just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
shout him out because listen,
Mm-hmm.
he was a demon.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like I said, Commanders, they've been on one, right? You guys already know this, but week 3, week 4, they won both of those matchups, right? They're off to four
Mm-hmm.
and one, or no, 3-1. My fault. They're up to 3-1,
Yeah,
and
3-1.
they've been on a roll. And honestly, if they keep on going, they could take a good commanding lead of that division right now.
Yeah, I try to tell people going into the season, especially some of my Eagles fans, homies, where I
That's what I'm
told them
saying.
Washington, the moves that they were making in the offseason, I told people look out for Washington, man. Like we talk about bringing in guys like Zach Ertz, talk about bringing guys in like Bobby Wagner, guys that have
Frankie
won
Louvu.
championship, know what it takes to win games, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's I could see this team, turning some heads and really turning around fast, especially if, Jaden Daniels hit the ground running. And right now he is hitting the ground running where, like you just said, I don't even think it's really arguable. He's playing the
Yes.
best quarterback football in that division right now. And I don't think it's
Yes.
really close as in these first 4 weeks. Um
Mm-hmm.
so to see how they're marrying, at least in the last 2 games, the pass and the run, you know what I mean, where you're using Jaden Daniels' legs, but you're not overusing his legs, if that
Yes.
makes sense. Again, situational, where you're using his legs, but you're keeping him safe at the same time. Like that's good
Hmm?
play calling. Cliff Kingsbury, he has played and he has
Cooking.
coached very good offense these
Mm-hmm.
4 weeks. So curious to see if they're able to keep this up going forward, and if they are, listen, I would be lying if I said I was surprised. But kind of on the flip side, right, a team I want to talk about is actually a team that's pretty fucking ass right now, and that's the Jaguars. 0-4,
There we go.
the only 0-4 team in the league right now. And listen, like I don't want to, kick a man while he's down, but we need to have a conversation about Trevor Lawrence. We need to have a
Yes.
conversation about Trevor Lawrence. In my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, so far in his career, he has not had a good season. Like in terms of touchdown to turnover production. He has not had a good season. There's been a lot of moments where, in this season in particular, where I don't see a lot of progression. I don't see a lot of. He's not seeing the field well. He's not placing the ball well. Where a lot of Jaguars fans have talked about it online, where he's missing guys wide open. They have wide open receivers. He's overthrowing. He's underthrowing. He's seeing pressure that isn't there. I don't know. They need to figure something out fast because this division can get really out of hand, right? This division can get really out of hand, especially when you got, the Texans who, they made the playoffs last year. The Titans, they get their first dub. So, and then Joe Flacco and the Colts, where it looks like, can he go on another run, like similar to what he did with the Browns? So if I'm the Jaguars, I'm not quite pushing the panic button, right? Because we still got a lot of football left to play, but
Right.
it's getting pretty close. And if and it's crazy, you just signed him to a new contract, so it's like he really isn't that movable. So that's why, for me, I feel like for a lot of teams, talent matters, of course, but production also matters. And I think that
Yes.
they slightly overpaid for Trevor Lawrence, and they may end up regretting it.
Yeah. And honestly, like I've looked at this before, and I've said this before. Trevor Lawrence, come before starting his first game of the NFL, right? He was crowned as like the next best thing, the next Peyton Manning, the next best quarterback in the league, right? But he has failed all expectations so far, right? And is
Mhm.
it all his fault? No, it's not. It's not always the quarterback's fault, right? But the one thing you got to realize is that you can't say the Jags haven't tried, right? They
Yeah.
tried to surround this guy with weapons, right? Especially last season, right? And this offseason, right? But the one thing you got to look at is like, you paid this guy this much amount of money, but he's failed to pass for more than 25 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, there's a lot of other quarterbacks in this league who has at least thrown more than 25 touchdowns in one season, right? Even Baker Mayfield, which I love my man's Baker, right? But the expectations are
Baker.
way different. Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where, you're talking about a guy coming from college where he won a national championship. He went to a couple national championships, right? He was the number one recruit out of high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
He All the expectations are different, and he hasn't lived up to it. And when you got him, well, I'm pretty sure it was like a blank picture, like a blacked out picture of two players, right? And they showed the stats side by side, right? And they were very, very similar. And guess who Trevor Lawrence came close to in terms of stats? That man on the Giants, where everybody wants him out.
Mm-hmm.
Now look. I'm not saying that Trevor Lawrence is, Daniel Jones, but stats don't lie, does it? Right? He had one playoff game, and who else
Mm-hmm.
had one playoff game? Daniel
We don't
Jones.
talk about that. We don't talk about that playoff
I
game.
know.
We don't talk
it's all
about
it's all good, but yeah,
Even
look,
in that playoff game, he threw 4 interceptions. like
there you go.
like, and I'm trying to find the stat now, but it compared, kind of similar. You know what I mean? Blaked out 2 players, and they compared their first 18 starts,
Mm-hmm.
and you would never believe the player that was being compared. It was Trevor Lawrence and Bryce Young. And Bryce Young actually had better stats than him in his first 18 start. And everybody talks about, oh, they didn't get rid of Bryce and all this. This is where I talk about, sometimes people, again, because of expectation, because of pedigree, right? He's been given a bigger leash. You know what I mean? He's been given a longer leash. But
Yes.
now I'm saying that the Jaguars need to move on from him, right? Because we've seen guys, kind of hit their stride later on in their career, right? A Baker
Mm-hmm.
Mayfield, a Sam Darnold that we're seeing, right? Guys that are, 28, 27 that are getting it now, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm the Jaguars, I would stay committed to him.
Yeah.
But again, as long as he's not seeing the field the way he needs to see the field, is going to be a long, long tenure and a long couple seasons for for Jacksonville. But and listen, I ain't gonna get too much into it, right? Because again, it's a lot of football left to play. But I listen, a lot of people were talking a lot of shit these last couple seasons, and now listen, it's not crazy to say that Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback in Florida right now.
Talk about it, man.
Listen,
Baker
I had
Mayfield.
conversations with people that said, Baker wasn't this, Baker wasn't that, and I said, listen, in my opinion, even at the time he was on the Browns, I was like, Baker Mayfield is a top 15 quarterback in this league, and people was like, oh, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, listen, in my opinion, his problem when he was in Cleveland was he didn't have any weapons, right? He had injured Odell Beckham, old Jarvis Landry, right? And they were a run first team. And you see now, in Tampa where he has guys to throw to, guys that are, getting to their spots on time, you know. And in my opinion, a very underrated coach is Todd Bowles, right? I don't feel as
Yes.
though Todd Bowles has gotten the amount of credit that he deserves for keeping this team competitive post Brady, right?
Mm.
We
Yes.
saw what Bruce Arians was down there. Where okay, yeah, Bruce Arians is definitely one of the top coaches, especially in this era. But we saw Todd Bowles take over, and people thought, okay, well Tampa's just gonna go back to being Tampa. But they have routinely made the playoffs since he has stepped in that role. So
Hmm.
hats off to Baker, hats off to Todd Bowles, man. And I'm very curious to see how the rest of their season pans out.
And similarly to Baker Mayfield, we got another MVP candidate, and that's my man's Sam fucking Darnold, man. And honestly, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just so happy to see him thriving now because like the amount of like I can only imagine like a top pick similar to Baker Mayfield, right? Where he's been getting torn and ripped apart.
Same draft.
Actually, I think it was the same
I
draft.
think the same draft.
Yeah, yeah.
They both
Small
were
world,
drafted
ain't
over. Yeah, they both were drafted before Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. But listen, they're hitting their
it?
stride.
Yeah, but yeah, yes, Sam Darnold, man, it's just great to see. He's thriving with the Vikings. They're undefeated. They're the only NFC team undefeated, right? And they've
Mm-hmm.
they've been rolling, man. Like I'm talking about, they playing very very good complementary football, man. Where they've been doing the thing on offense, but also their defense, where they were really bad last year, they've been
Mm-hmm.
clicking on all cylinders this year, man. And it's just night and day. It's night and day. And honestly, I would have thought that they probably would have had a secondary problem because their corners couldn't cover a lick at all, right? But their corners right now, well, I don't know what type of development they went through their off season, but
Mm-hmm.
they're showing up this season. That's all I need to know, right? And honestly, right now with their schedule, have they beaten some teams that are surprising? Yes, for sure. But my thing is that I will still right now be cautious in how much faith I have in them. We'll see how they play against their other divisional opponents with the Lions, right? If they can hang with the Lions and a couple other teams, coming up on their schedule, who knows? They could be a contender, an underrated contender, right? And I said this in the group chat, and I think Severe even said it. Shout out to Severe. Yeah, we might have a Bucks versus Vikings, NFC Championship, and shoot, we didn't. Nobody
Who
had that
would have
on their
thought?
bingo card,
Hell no.
right? And so it's crazy how the NFL never fails to surprise us every single season, right? And honestly, that's just what makes the game a lot more funner to watch. And yes, I use funner. That is a word that I will be using today, right? But yeah, like yeah, Vikings. They beat the Texans. They mollywopped them 34-7, right? Your quarterback and CJ Stroud, where he doesn't normally turn the ball over, but you get 2 turnovers out of him, right? And then on the flip side, in Week 4 when they played the Packers, which that was a crazy game where they had a big lead,
Crazy.
Packers almost came back, but the Vikings hang on. And honestly, the main thing about that game is that yes, the Vikings won, but the Packers and Jordan Love, which I don't know how he's back. I thought he was going to be out for
Yeah.
like a mid-season, but he's playing now. But yeah, he did have 4 touchdowns, but he had 3 interceptions.
Receptions.
Right? So it was just kind of mind-boggling with some of the decisions he made. But he's a gunslinger. He's gonna make his good throws and bad throws, right? So yeah, it's the Vikings. They've been on a roll, and yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think we touched on a lot, me in this pod, and you know, looking forward to these upcoming matchups to really see how the league kind of shapes out. Especially my team being on a bye week. I'll be looking at some of these games and really again seeing how this league shapes out. Um, but with that being said, man, man, this has been a great conversation, a great podcast, man. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe. If this how's your squad doing, right?
yeah.
Whether
Let us know.
whatever team that you root for, let us know down in the comments below. How you're feeling about your team. If you feel confident about your team, if your team is kind of shaky. But with that being said, man, it's the No Bullshit Podcast, man. It's been Kyle,
Yo, it's Coughlin.
and we'll catch you on the next one, bro.
All right, see ya. Peace out. Cool. No, like what's it called? I was thinking, I think I don't know if you did.